Singapore would not be Singapore if it did not have people to follow Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. If Mr. Lee Kuan Yew was a leader, but everybody else was a leader too, and all they wanted to do was to have their way.
Meet Vikas Malkani. Born and brought up in New Delhi, at the age of 30 he quit a respectable CEO position in the family jeans empire and became a coach. And 20 years ago, Vikas moved to Singapore to start his business. As we talked, he pointed out the key differences between Indians and Singaporeans, his thoughts on Lee Kuan Yew and leadership, and what it feels like to be a coach for Sharon Stone. I'm Max Chernov, let's go!
One of the reasons I chose Singapore as my home and my business, my life is here now. One of those reasons was that it is so cosmopolitan. People from all over the world come here. When you are exposed to people from different cultures, different thinking, different backgrounds, that opens your mind. I mean, how does the mind expand? The mind expands when we learn something new. And we learn something new not from the system we are used to, but from systems we are not used to. Not from the mindset that we have grown up with, but from a mindset that we have not grown up with. And it works all ways. So even the Westerners coming here or the other Asians coming here, all the expats coming here, they will tend to benefit when they can engage with Singaporean friends or Singaporean colleagues and engage in a very open way, right? Not a judgmental way. There's no need to judge anything here. Singapore offers us that wonderful opportunity to take the best of the world because everybody from all over the world is available here, is present here. People are doing business here from all over the world, right?
I know another place where you can learn from different people's different backgrounds is actually this YouTube channel. It's actually people from all over the world.
Absolutely.
Are you going to apply for citizenship at some point?
I actually did.
You did?
I actually did one time and I went for an interview. But then after the interview, they did not take it further for whatever reason. So I stayed a PR.
They explained?
They don't explain.
It's a little bit like a black box in Singapore, yeah? You don't know.
I could have applied again, but then I chose not to. I'm a PR here, I've been a PR here, and I'm happy to be. And if tomorrow they should invite me for some reason to come and be a citizen, yes. I'm up for it, absolutely. But I applied once and it didn't go through. And I didn't know the reason. If I knew a reason, then
you can fix it.
Exactly. I would have bettered myself in that aspect and applied again. But since I didn't know the reason, so what do I make better? I was personally very inspired by Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, and I wanted to see the country he had built in a way. And when I came here, I think I fell in love with the country, and then I fell in love with the people. And I decided that if possible, I would make this my home and grow my business and my success here.
What do you think the key features of Lee Kuan Yew that helped him to build Singapore with his team?
I think Mr. Lee Kuan Yew was a visionary. He had the foresight. He could see into the future, literally. He had that ability to be able to see what the world will become like, then to take action on that now. So he took action in the present when he was creating that concept of Singapore, thinking of the future. And that is a true hallmark of a leader, of a visionary. And he took the tough jobs, he took on those hard actions, which would not bring success immediately, but which would bring success in time to come, and that success would be sustained. I mean, Singapore today is a first world country, and people call it the Switzerland of Asia, Geneva of Asia, all of these things. But really, I mean, it is a model to study. It is an example to be inspired by. And I've traveled all over the world. I have clients all over the world. So I go to the UK, I go to the USA, I go to Europe and India, of course, lots of countries of Asia. And even in those countries, they actually talk about Singapore, that maybe we should learn from Singapore. Certain things that Singapore has done and the society they have created, it's harmonious, it's homogeneous, it's peaceful, it's safe, it's secure, it's clean, it's neat. Government supports businesses, taxation is low, businesses are encouraged to come here. All of those were, I think, facets of a successful economy that Mr. Lee Kuan Yew saw and implemented in his time.
Speaking about leadership, can you build the leadership skill in you if let's say, you don't have it?
I'm of the opinion, and I've worked with so many leaders, the skills of leadership can be learned. However, the character of leadership is either in you or not in you. So in other words, yes, if the original material lies in a person, if the person has a certain attitude or an inner character, a desire for leadership, because it involves taking responsibility, it involves taking the burden, not just of the good results, but also of the bad results. It involves being responsible. And responsibility is not something that everybody wants to hold. So if the person has that original quality inside him and their character, then yes, the skills can be learned. But if that quality doesn't exist initially, then it's very difficult. So I think it's a combination of the two.
Then what should you do if you don't have it, like naturally?
Find a good leader to follow.
So it's nothing wrong to be a follower?
Oh, nothing wrong at all. This is just another misconception that we have been told, you know. Think about it, that Singapore would not be Singapore if it did not have people to follow Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. If Mr. Lee Kuan Yew was a leader, but everybody else was a leader too, and all they wanted to do was to have their way, it would be chaos. So any successful venture, country, a company, a project, an initiative, a mission requires one leader and people to follow. It could be multiple leaders in different aspects, different directions, but people to follow each leader. A leader is not effective or powerful without people to follow.
Good leader should know how to follow. It's like, and I learned it about myself because I had a team of maximum 45 people. Once my CEO guy, he asked me, why you trust me at all? Like, because I'm new in the team, like I'm just half a year in the team, like why you give me like all the passwords from like Google account and stuff? And I told him like, otherwise if I don't trust you, if I don't follow what you're saying, I'll be just super nervous and like super cautious about what's going on. So you need to actually follow. And if someone knows stuff, like let's say I have a marketing guy, he knows marketing better than me, I need to follow his advice and his guidance, how we do marketing in our team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the tendency, it's an attribute of a good leader.
Yeah.
A good leader is not good at everything, they're good at leading. So even if you look at a team, right, a sports team, let's take a soccer team or a cricket team. I'm from India, so I'll use a cricket example, okay? Yeah. But there's a captain. The captain may not be the best batsman or the best bowler or the best wicket keeper. But what he will do, because he's the leader, he's the captain, is he will find the person, the player who's the best at batting and put him in first so that he can bat. He can do what he's good at. You see, we succeed when we work in the zone of our strength, in the zone of our skill.
Yeah.
So a leader, a captain, a visionary, will see what people are good at and place them in a position where they can perform at a level of excellence. So a leader need not be good at everything, but a leader will have the skill to place people effectively.
Because you spent half of your life in India, more than half of your life, and then 2 years in Singapore, what is the biggest difference? Let's say, we know like the economic structure is like super different, but what's the main difference in terms of how people think, in terms of mentality?
Growing up in India, one thing we learn is to be self-dependent, independent, right? We don't depend on the government for anything because it's a land, India is a land now of 1.5 billion people, right? So it's a big country and there's a lot of competition. For anything you want to do, there's a lot of competition. So you have to really rely on yourself. And that means you have to become creative. You have to become resilient. You have to become strong. To find your way forward. You know, you have to find a unique way or an innovative way to solve problems or to find your way forward. There's a joke that we often use in India, which is that Indians succeed not because of the system, but regardless of the system. It's changing now, I must say, because the current government in India is simplifying things, it's standardizing things, and I think they're doing a great job. So more and more Indians are succeeding. More and more Indians are succeeding in India and internationally. And you can look at the Indian diaspora in Singapore or in other countries like the UK, the USA, and you'll find that people, Indians all over the world, are succeeding. They have an entrepreneurial mindset. You know, there's also another running joke, which is that India is a land of 1.5 billion entrepreneurs, right? Whether they start a business, whether they start a shop, it's a corner shop or it's a kiosk on the street, but they all want to make business because they know that business is the way to make money. Now, not everybody will do that because every business will employ people. So that also is there, and it's actually part. This whole profession of business is part of our ancient Indian culture. So even 7,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, the books which were written, the scriptures which were written, mention the business class. So entrepreneurship is something you grow with. You know, you grow up with it. It's in your blood. It comes very naturally. My father was an entrepreneur, started from nothing and he made his own success.
Yeah.
And I followed suit after that.
The celebrities that you had the pleasure to work with,
Yes.
can you recall like maybe the most interesting one, the most memorable?
I remember when the Singapore Sun Festival was taking place. The celebrity invited during that event was Sharon Stone. When she arrived in Singapore, I guess she had read about me or somebody had told her, but she actually requested a session with me while she was in Singapore. So I was invited to her suite, and she was staying at the Ritz-Carlton, if I remember correctly. It was the presidential suite, massive place. And then when I went in, you know, she was a very nice person. And then she asked everybody else to leave because obviously she wanted to discuss certain things with me and get guidance. So that was very memorable. She's a wonderful person, very successful, but a human being. Genuine, compassionate human being with all human characteristics. I got opportunities to meet with people like John Travolta. You know, he's such a genuine person. And I still remember one of the things he said because we were a group of people with him. He's always dressed very smartly. He's just one person who's like, no matter how you see him, when you see him, he's like very well put together. You know, everything is very nice. And he has that confidence and that charisma. And somebody actually commented that, you know, your clothes are always so wonderful and how do you do it? Who tailors them for you and all? And he stood up and he said, look, guys, you don't have to spend too much money on getting yourself looking good. And then he actually said, you know, this jacket I bought from there, it's like a off-the-rack jacket. And, you know, I brought this trouser from there and these are my old clothes which I got redone. And it's all about how you think and how do you put it together. And that was a whole surprising facet which nobody would ever think. I mean, you'd think a Hollywood star making multi-million dollars, flying a plane, you know, a pilot, he owns his own plane, right? You know, he'll be spending thousands of dollars without thinking on his clothes. But he said, no. He said, no, I value everything, and even clothes I value, and I'm not just about to go out and, you know, buy just the most expensive thing. I want to just look good, and I know what I like, so I make that happen. I remember that.
Is there anything like one feature, or maybe a few features that all these successful people, big celebrities, they share?
I could point out three. You see, the first thing is they become good at something. They don't just blindly do what the world is asking you to, but do something that calls you, that calls to you, that calls to your heart, you know, that makes your heart sing. You know, find work that makes your heart sing, whatever it may be, acting, tech. I mean, tech somebody would think is so non-sexy, right? I mean, acting is sexy, but look at what tech did for Steve Jobs and Steve Woz and everybody else. So find any work that makes your heart sing. And I think all of these people have, because when you find that, you get good at it. You see, when you love something, you give it more time. Whether it is your work, it's a person, it's a thing. Anything that you love will take your time, will absorb your time. And when you put time and effort into something, you get good. So they find work that they love and they get good at it, number one. And the second thing I found is they build networks. All of them, they build networks and they're connected. Just like, you know, you and I do, right? We're building networks and that's how we got connected. They build these networks. And then the third thing I find, which is common in all successful people, and successful, I'm not using it as a very general term, I'm talking about the outliers, you know, the people who rise above success in a way. They maximize on opportunity, right? I'm trying to find the best way to say it. You see, when you get good at something and you've built a network, then what happens is that life eventually presents opportunities. And when that opportunity comes,
if you like this video, check out the next one. But you have only 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.